Everything you possess exists because others carried you, not because you achieved it yourself. Don't confuse sympathy with genuine value, Sloane said with a smile. Just soft enough for the room to catch it, just sharp enough to ensure I'd always remember. If you've ever been treated like a stranger within your own family, branded a burden while silently surviving it all, then this story is for you. Keep watching because sometimes the cruelest quiet is only the opening note to a reckoning no one expected. I leaned back in my leather chair, the Manhattan skyline shimmering beyond the double glass walls of my corner office. From this height, people resembled opportunities, small moving pieces I could reposition or disregard. But my history still carried weight. I could hear it in Sloane's tone even before I answered the phone. Cass, she chirped, artificial warmth wrapped in velvet restraint. Did you receive the invitation? It's going to be so refined this year. Fairmont Pavilion, Boston. Truly exclusive. You know, senators, perhaps royalty, the kind of setting that truly elevates. I'm aware of the venue, I replied, reaching for the glass of still water beside me. Oh, wonderful, she said brightly, unaware. You know, with your hospitality experience, I assumed you'd appreciate how much effort it required for us to secure it. Daddy said I have an eye for prestige. I didn't correct her. Didn't explain that the pavilion was the crown jewel of my empire, that every square inch from scent design to soundproofing had my approval, that the work she'd done was submit a request through our VIP client portal, and that I personally had clicked accept with a 50% markup. Sounds like quite the achievement, I said evenly. You have no idea. She gushed. I mean, the pavilion isn't exactly accessible, right? I smiled, not that she could see. True, but exclusivity is relative. She laughed. Oh, Cass, you've always had a sense of humor. Then, as if the mask slipped briefly, anyway, just wanted to give you notice. We're keeping the guest list limited this year. No offense, simply you know how image matters. No offense. I ended the call with a quiet, of course, perhaps next year, and watched my reflection settle into the glass, calm, composed, untouched. But inside, something colder shifted, not anger, not even pain, just precision, like the weight of a scalpel in a surgeon's grip. My phone buzzed. It was Ethan. Ethan, they truly didn't include your name. Want me to cause trouble? I smiled. Me, not yet. I turned to Noah, who stood beside my desk like the final punctuation of a sentence. Confirm something for me, I said. The Langford reservation at the Pavilion. What channel did it arrive through? VIP portal, he replied instantly. Approved last week. Event code LGR 1124. You authorized it. Good. I opened my laptop and accessed the master file. The ballroom lighting schedule appeared. Then the fragrance control panel, champagne list, name card layout, stage programming. Every line item routed through me. I raised the per hour valet charge, tripled the ambient scent rotation, replaced the classical quartet with a contemporary jazz trio, just enough variation to unsettle anyone expecting familiarity. Then I highlighted the final field master event contact, Cassidy Moore CEO, Monroe Lux Group. I didn't change it. I didn't need to. Noah lifted an eyebrow. Want to cancel it. We still can. No, I said quietly. Let them enter. He nodded, then paused. Want to raise the hosting rate, already handled. I looked at the glowing signature box on the invoice and added a premium tier for legacy clients. Bold. I leaned back again, the city stretching endlessly beneath us. Calculated. As he left, I composed a message to Ethan. Me. Can you ensure everyone arrives precisely at 7 p.m.? Ethan. Why, let's just say the welcome speech will come from an unexpected voice. I stared at the monitor a moment longer. watching as the animation of the pavilion's main ballroom rotated lazily in 3D. The ceiling, the floors, the lighting, all mine. They had no idea. I remembered Sloane's bridal shower years earlier, how she'd accidentally placed me near the janitor's closet. Your crowd, she'd whispered with a grin, like it was a joke only we were meant to find amusing, like I was a punchline in a narrative I never authored. That chapter had closed. I highlighted the scent field and programmed a new signature aroma. Saffron, bergamot, and steel-cut cedar, the fragrance of power, of refinement, of new rules. This time I murmured to myself, I'll be the one distributing the seating chart. When you control the venue, you don't simply host the event, you orchestrate the fall. The ballroom shimmered beneath custom crystal chandeliers, each calibrated to cast golden light at precisely measured angles. Not too soft, not too harsh, intimate yet commanding. I crossed the polished marble floor, heels clicking in flawless rhythm with muted jazz drifting through concealed speakers. Tomorrow, this space would be filled with Langfords, smiling, posing, unaware until they weren't. I paused at the head table, 12 seats, exactly 12. The last time I attended a Langford event, I was wedged between the server station and a trash bin. Sloane had called it a logistical oversight. I'd been wearing my finest coat, a second-hand wool trench I could scarcely afford, but tonight I wore custom charcoal and control. No Langford serves. My father once snapped when I announced I'd accepted a role in hotel management. His words fractured something within me, not loudly, but permanently, and now the irony, I wasn't serving them, I was presenting them. Cassidy, no, his voice was gentle behind me. I turned and he held up a tablet, lighting cues confirmed. Scent diffusers installed and tested. Jazz trio arrives at noon tomorrow. Want to approve the champagne list. I took the tablet and reviewed the selections. I'd chosen each vintage carefully, notes of resilience, undertones of class. Add the Krug 2008, I said, but only 2 bottles. Make it feel exclusive, he nodded. Understood. As he stepped away, I approached the far corner of the ballroom where a curved LED wall rose 2 stories high behind a translucent curtain. Currently blank, it hummed softly with idle power. I opened the concealed interface on my phone. The reveal queue was locked. 7:15 p.m. Exactly 15 minutes after all guests would have arrived and settled into the illusion they'd built. I tapped once to confirm. A staff member, a young brunette in a blazer slightly oversized, her frame stepped closer, balancing a clipboard and nerves. "Excuse me, miss," she said. "Mr. Monroe wanted these menus double. Checked before printing." I accepted the clipboard. "Mr. Monroe is very thorough." "Oh, he is," she said, exhaling with relief. "We've never had a VIP client so meticulous. Every detail, timing, lighting, even the scent programming. He knows precisely what he wants." I smiled without revealing teeth. "He does." She flushed faintly, likely embarrassed by her enthusiasm. "It's simply refreshing. Most clients focus on the flowers. He appears to care about how people feel. That's what makes it unforgettable," I said, returning the clipboard. As she walked away, I adjusted a hydrangea centerpiece half an inch left. The table instantly felt more balanced, like truth sliding into clarity. There is power in details no one notices until they're wrong. My phone vibrated. A message from Ethan. "Ethan, they believe you're working at a roadside motel. Sloane actually said perhaps she can send cookies from her inn." I read it twice, then again. My fingers hovered above the screen. Me. Tomorrow they'll receive more than cookies. I slipped the phone away and headed to the executive suite on the 2nd floor, which I'd claimed as temporary headquarters. Noah was already there, standing beside a mahogany table holding 6 navy folders, each embossed with a gold crest. "Are crest press kits inside?" I asked. He opened one. full profiles, financials, press coverage, and the master invoice. He tapped the final page, approved at the legacy premium rate. I smiled and opened the carved desk drawer lined in suede. One by one, I placed the folders inside, aligning their edges until they appeared like something a Langford would trust. Distribution plan staff prepared to deliver them to Richard, Sloane, Uncle Dean, and the core family once the reveal lands. Good. I stood briefly in silence, staring at the gold lettering. Monroe Lux Group beneath, backed by ML Partners. They didn't recognize that name, not yet, but they would. I turned toward the window. Boston's skyline glowed across the harbor, timeless and unaware. They wouldn't anticipate it. I checked my phone one final time. On the screen, a black background with white numbers revealed T-minus 1 day, 0 hours 14 minutes. They arrived dressed in couture and confidence, stepping through golden doors I'd funded without realizing whose realm they had entered. The valet lane outside the pavilion gleamed with chrome and designer emblems, Rolls, Royce, Bentley, the occasional Tesla with plates boasting more than identifying. Inside, the grand ballroom was already alive with soft conversations and sharper appraisals. My family always moved as if they were being observed, even when they were the least compelling people present. I watched from the private control suite on the mezzanine level, a silent silhouette in shadow. The security feed flickered across 6 flat screens, each capturing a separate corner of the ballroom, each streaming a symphony of shallow compliments and sharper smiles. Below, Sloane stood beneath the pavilion's golden arch, posing with arms extended as if being crowned. The floor, length crimson Dior gown clung to her every intention. She welcomed guests like a diplomat, kissing cheeks, pressing palms with donors and distant cousins alike. Her voice carried just enough to be overheard, just loud enough to ensure you knew she knew someone more important than you. I told Daddy the venue had to be unforgettable. She told a tech investor's wife, clutching a champagne flute like it was a wand. The pavilion simply has that pedigree, doesn't it? She didn't realize that every inch of that pedigree carried my signature. From chandelier elevations to the imported Italian plaster behind her carefully staged photo opportunity. She didn't realize that the fragrance in the air, which she likely attributed to elegance, was part of a proprietary formula I'd created years ago to trigger emotional resonance at subconscious levels. Ethan appeared in the lower right monitor. He adjusted his cuff links and nodded toward the main entrance, then discreetly tapped his phone. Mine vibrated a second later. Ethan, all present, full guest list accounted for. I typed back 2 words, me, showtime. Noah stood beside me, tablet in hand, already aligning the cues. I didn't need to speak. He tapped twice, once for lighting pre-shift, once to activate LED wall sync. Then I exited the control suite. I moved through the private hallway behind the ballroom, heels silent against thick carpet, the event's hum muted but persistent like a current building charge. The door to the main floor opened with a whisper. I stepped out as the pavilion's general manager approached Sloane, interrupting her mid-photo. "I'm terribly sorry, Miss Langford," he said with professional composure, "but the property owner has requested a slight adjustment to tonight's program." Sloane's laughter faltered mid-sentence, her smile twitching. "Excuse me," the manager remained steady. "There's been an update regarding the event designation. The owner is present and wishes to make a brief announcement." Sloane blinked, puzzled. "Owner, that was my signal." I stepped forward from behind the champagne tower, smooth and silent, my Tom Ford suit catching chandelier light like armor. Eyes tracked the motion. Conversations thinned. Several glasses lowered mid-sip. "Yes," I said, voice calm. Even I did. Silence heavy and fragile. The kind that filled a room the way water fills a glass, inevitable, absolute. Sloane turned toward me, not fully comprehending. Richard Langford stepped closer, brows drawing together. Cassidy, he said. The name sounded unfamiliar in his mouth. I didn't pause. I walked past stunned relatives, past the donor circle, past cousins who once called me hospital girl behind my back. I stepped onto the central platform and gave Noah a slight nod. The ballroom dimmed, then bloomed in gold. The LED wall awakened with a soft flicker, first displaying the pavilion's logo, then a clean white screen. Black lettering faded in, bold and simple. Monroe Pavilion, owned and operated by Cassidy Moore. For a heartbeat, no one inhaled. Then came the sound, a sharp, delicate crack. A champagne flute slipped from someone's hand and shattered on marble. I didn't flinch. I looked across the sea of faces, painted, powdered, perplexed. The same ones that once looked through me as if I were decorative. Now they looked upward. I didn't need to raise my voice. The room had already fallen silent. They stared at me like I'd grown fangs, but I'd only grown teeth sharp enough to endure. The light from the LED wall still glowed. My name blazed behind me in 10-foot letters, crisp and undeniable like the truth they'd never bothered to seek. Across the ballroom, glasses hovered midair. Conversations halted midward. Eyes darted from screen to stage to me to one another, attempting to reconcile what their pride refused to accept. I stepped forward, deliberately, unhurried. Silence carried weight, and I had waited 17 years for this silence. "Good evening," I said, my voice steady, unhurried. "I want to thank you all for attending tonight. It means a great deal to host the Langford family reunion here at Monroe Pavilion." A stir, more bewilderment than recognition. Someone in the back shifted, a cough. Sloane stood motionless beside the stage, crimson gown taut at the shoulders, face expressionless. "I understand there was some misunderstanding about who organized tonight's event," I continued. "Allow me to clarify." The screens behind me flickered again, this time transitioning into motion. Video clips played in sequence. The first Monroe property in Chicago. My team installing marble floors in Malta. A ribbon cutting ceremony in Singapore. Black tie galas across Paris, New York, Dubai, logos, headlines, press briefings. Then footage of hotel interiors, corridors with mirrored walls, banquet halls glowing in amber light, the fragrance system launching for the first time at the pavilion. Each scene concluded with the same logo, Monroe Lux Group, followed by the same signature, Cassidy Moore, founder and CEO. Faces shifted. Whispers spread like breaths held too long. "And since we're being precise tonight," I said, turning slightly, "some of you will soon receive a folder. Just a modest thank you package for your continued faith in tradition." Right on cue, uniformed staff moved throughout the room. They placed sleek navy folders into waiting hands. Richard, Sloane, Uncle Dean, Aunt Felicia, the core Langfords, the ones who had made it clear year after year that I did not belong. Richard opened his folder first. His lips moved soundlessly as he read. In his hands, an itemized invoice for tonight's event, booked under Langford Global Reunion VIP tier, plus with a 50% prestige markup. Beneath that, Monroe Lux's corporate press kit, my biography. A Forbes spread headlined the woman who built empires while her family watched the wrong sister. Sloane stared at hers. Her fingers were rigid, her grip far too tight. "This is manipulation," she finally said. "This entire thing, it's a setup. You planned this." I met her eyes evenly. "I planned an event. Yes, the fact that you didn't know whose event it was is not my manipulation. It's your neglect." A few guests murmured. Sloane flared. "I made this happen. I secured this venue. You think appearing in a suit makes you somebody." Noah, standing near the media table, tapped his tablet. The screen shifted again. It displayed a document, an internal Monroe Lux contract dated 3 weeks ago, signed by one Sloane Langford, recipient of a customized premium package, marked approved by CM in the upper right corner, Cassidy Moore. I looked at her. You did secure the venue through our VIP portal where I approved it personally. She said nothing, and I continued, you approved a floral concept that's part of our proprietary scent experience designed by our brand team and trademarked last year. Her mouth opened, but no sound followed. Every guest entered my space, sat beneath my chandeliers, drank from my cellars. You didn't bring us here, Sloane. I allowed you in. Silence heavier than before wrapped around the room. Even Richard had lowered his gaze, and then she never required your validation. A voice called from the back. Calm, measured, female, only your silence, heads turned. Margaret Langford stepped forward, pearls at her throat, steel in her stride. I hadn't seen her in years, not since she quietly disappeared from the family circuit after a falling out over inheritance politics, as Sloane once described it. She moved past stunned relatives, never breaking eye contact with me. You used ML partners, she said quietly, more statement than question. I nodded. You were the only one who ever asked what I was building, and the only one who didn't laugh when you said luxury hotels, she added. Margaret turned to the crowd. I backed her first loan discreetly through a private vehicle. She didn't request help. She earned it, and now she gestured to the room. You all finally see who you've been overlooking. I wanted to speak, but no words surfaced. Instead, I allowed the silence to work. Sloane stared at the document in her hands. Her voice cracked. This rate. This is 50% above market. I looked at her with the faintest trace of a smile. Family surcharge, years of interest. There is something poetic about watching someone choke on their own ego. By 8:00, the ballroom had emptied of most formalities. Conversations splintered into tight clusters, laughter threaded with caution. The champagne continued flowing, but people now sipped rather than gulped. The music had softened. The energy had shifted from triumphant to tentative, and I was still standing. I made my way to the concierge desk, where a lineup of Pavilion staff stood ready behind the marble counter, each holding elegant navy-labeled folios. Their expressions were practiced, professional. Mine remained unreadable. Cassidy, Noah murmured at my side, we're ready to begin room assignments. I gave a slight nod. Proceed. Sloane was the first to approach. She walked with forced composure, her heels striking faster than necessary, her gown now stiff beneath the weight of being seen. She extended her hand automatically, expecting keys to her usual top-floor skyline view, claw foot tub, personalized pillow menu. Instead, the concierge offered her a sleek envelope marked Queen Standard in her wing. A modest room, no windows, functional, clean. Sloane blinked. There must be a mistake. No, Miss Langford, the concierge said smoothly. Due to unexpected VIP arrivals, your reservation was reassigned. We hope the accommodations will still meet your standards. Her jaw tightened. Do you know who I am? I stepped beside her. Serene. They do, I said quietly. That's why they handed you exactly what was prepared. She turned to me, fury and disbelief blending across her face. This is petty. No, I replied. This is precise. She took the envelope and walked off stiffly, her spine attempting to compensate for everything her name no longer could. Cousin Logan arrived next, grinning as if this were all entertainment. He had once mocked the inexpensive blazer I wore at a Langford holiday party, calling me the hired help. He hadn't grown into his humor. Cass, he said. Wild night, huh, eventful, I agreed, then nodded toward the staff member beside me. The man stepped forward. Mr. Langford, your interview is scheduled for 9:00 a.m. tomorrow. Monroe Lux is reviewing candidates for assistant property manager in Boston. Logan's face froze. Interview. You submitted your resume through our careers portal last month. I said gently. I remember the name. His cheek reddened. I didn't know. That doesn't alter the qualifications we require, I replied. But punctuality will help. He accepted the folder without another word and shuffled away, suddenly shorter than I remembered. Richard appeared last. He didn't hurry, didn't issue commands, simply approached in silence. a glass of untouched champagne in one hand, his tie loosened, his eyes, so accustomed to looking through me, were finally on me. "I suppose this is the part where I say something," he said. I raised an eyebrow. "You could," he exhaled. "I was wrong." The words lingered, fragile. "I should have believed in you, or at least paid attention. But you have to understand. I thought I was protecting our family's name. I didn't know." "You didn't want to know," I said, my voice steady. "You made a decision about who I was, and you clung to it because it was easier than accepting I'd outgrown the version you created." His expression shifted. "You didn't just doubt me, you erased me. That requires more than a handshake to undo." Richard lowered his gaze. For the first time in my life, he appeared small. "I don't expect forgiveness," he murmured. "But I hope this doesn't end here." I said nothing. I simply turned and walked away. As I approached the elevator, Ethan waited. He held an envelope in his hands and extended it silently. "You may not want to read this," he said, "but I think you should." It was a handwritten letter from Richard. It wasn't revenge. It was closure. Served at room temperature with a view of the skyline they believed I'd never reach. The city glowed like a living organism, its lights pulsing softly against the glass walls of the Monroe Pavilion's penthouse. Below, the final traces of the reunion faded, laughter softer now, heels no longer clicking with the same certainty. Up here, everything felt still and earned. I stood barefoot by the window, suit jacket draped over the arm of a velvet chair, hair loosened, pulse steady. Behind me, Noah sat at the bar, tablet in hand. "Website traffic is up 300%, he said. "Trending keywords, Cassidy Moore, Monroe Lux CEO, and strangely enough, Langford family drama." I smirked. "Not exactly the brand alignment we planned." "Maybe not," he replied, but the message landed. Clean, elegant, ruthless without cruelty. That was the goal. My phone buzzed on the table beside the champagne bucket. I glanced down. Sloan, we should talk." I picked it up, paused a moment, and typed back. "Me, breakfast is at 9:00. I own that cafe, too." Noah let out a brief laugh. "Want me to cancel that reservation?" "No. Let her come. Let her see what service truly looks like." He returned to his tablet, tapping through room comp reports. I reached for the envelope I hadn't opened earlier, the one Ethan had handed me after the fallout downstairs. It felt heavier now, as if time had settled inside the fold. I opened it. The handwriting was unmistakably my father's, sharper than before, bold, smaller than I remembered. "Cassidy, I don't know how to make up for the silence. I only know I regret it. I was wrong about you, about what you chose, and about what strength truly looks like. You didn't just build something. You became someone I didn't have the courage to understand. That's on me. If there is still space for a conversation, I'd take it. No pride, no script, Dad." I folded it carefully and placed it in the desk drawer. I didn't lock it. From the hallway, Ethan called. "Noah wants to know if we're green lit for Tokyo pre-opening." I stepped away from the window and picked up the phone. "Patch me in." A moment later, the line connected. "Tokyo HQ here. It's Cassidy. Everything ready. Final confirmation. One question," I said. "Name of the top suite in the new tower." A pause on the other end. "Untitled as of now." I smiled. "Call it the Langford." Silence, then understood. I ended the call and sat at the desk, the letter resting quietly inches from my hand. My phone buzzed again. Noah sending preliminary press mock-ups. I swiped it away. Instead, I opened my notes app and typed a single sentence. "You don't need to silence the past. Just build louder than it ever spoke." They tried to silence her with shame, but she responded with legacy. The ones who once mocked her success now walked through halls she designed, breathed air she curated, and paid for the privilege of being seen by her. Justice didn't arrive with fury, but with facts, elegance, and a receipt. Like the final chord of a long, forgotten melody, justice may arrive late, but it resonates powerfully once heard. Because when the past underestimates you, The greatest victory is building a future so undeniable it speaks for itself.